So let me now introduce and invite our third and last speaker, Dr. Stephen R. Nagy. He is the Senior Associate Professor at the International Christian University in Tokyo. He's the visiting fellow with the Japan Institute for International Affairs. You have the floor, sir, for 15 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much, Foundation, for inviting me to contribute to this wonderful discussion. It's a wonderful opportunity to share some views. So I've been asked to speak about the changing world order, India, and global expectations for India. And I'd like to do this first by talking about the changing world order, at least how I understand it. And then I'd like to bring in some perspectives about India from Japan, and that's where I'm based. And then lastly, I think look at some vehicles where I think India can translate hope into some real policy. And I think that's really important. How can India translate hope into policy that really provides a public good to the region? So to begin with, I think the idea of a changing world order is a significant question for all of us to be thinking about. And I do think that we see broadly three scenarios: a bipolar world emerging, a multipolar world emerging, or some kind of hybrid. I think most analysts see that a bipolar world is the likely direction that we're moving in. I say this because I think in the context of the Russian invasion of the Ukraine, we are likely to see Russia come out of the conflict in a much weaker position. Its relationship with China will be a hierarchical relationship with China at the top. And this will create a bipolar, a short-term bipolar world in which China and the United States continue to deepen their strategic rivalry. That being said, there are arguments for a multipolar world in which India, perhaps Europe, create alternative poles. I think the challenge with this narrative is that comprehensively the power differentials between the United States, China, Europe, and India still remain quite distant. In that sense, a hybrid world order may be the world order that we should be expecting in the coming decades. Why I say hybrid is that I think that the United States will continue to remain a comprehensive power above and beyond all other parties. However, China will continue to be an economic power and military power within its periphery. Europe will continue to be a regulatory power and economic power. And India, of course, will be moving towards a position of broader comprehensive power, economic power, diplomatic power. And I'm going to come back to this, but the idea of a normative power. And I think this is really, really important for us to be thinking about where India fits in the new changing order and where India can really provide leadership. So bipolar, multipolar, and hybrid. The next question is, how do countries like Japan see India? Is it a great power? Is it a middle power? What kind of partner is it? And Japan continues to see India as a place of extreme hope. Hope as an economic partner in terms of the synergies that Japan and India have. Japan is capital rich, technology rich. Of course, they have a long-standing historical and cultural relationship in which Japan has inherited many of its cultural traditions from India. At the same time, the hope for a more synergistic economic relationship is also characterized by, I think, unfulfilled potential. And here, the Japanese are thinking about, the challenges of investing in India. And to put it clear, Japan has been the biggest investor, and India continues to be the biggest recipient of Japanese ODA, not for the past decade, but for more than 15 years. Japan sees overseas development assistance as key to helping build India's strategic autonomy, helping build its economy, and helping it be a complementary economic partner to shape the Indo-Pacific region. But it also has concerns about infrastructure, about the variety of forms of government, or the variety of challenges in terms of investing into India, and how reliable and stable it is. From Japan's point of view, an India that can realize its potential will be a partner to deal with diplomatic challenges within the region, It will be a partner to help forge a stable and peaceful Indo-Pacific region. And it will be a partner that shares much of its worldview in terms of preventing Chinese hegemony from emerging within the region, but also having a complementary, beneficial economic relationship with China. And that is important. I often bring this figure up, but in 2021, Japan traded the Japan-China relationship was about $391 billion. It's a relationship that cannot be severed, but it's a relationship that's complex. And I think here, again, India shares many of the challenges in terms of the economic benefits it has from China, but also the geopolitical challenges that come from that relationship. Lastly, when the Japanese are thinking about India, they're thinking about what kind of power it will be moving forward. Will it be a great power in the sense of Japan, the United States, and China competing for geopolitical gain within the region? Or will it be a power that tries to stabilize international institutions in a way that middle powers such as Japan or Canada or others have consistently tried to do, is maintain a rules-based order by investing into international institutions? In this sense, I think Japan looks at India today in many ways as it looks at itself. The potential to be a great power, the potential to get involved in the great power politics of the region, but at the same time, an abiding interest in investing in and helping build international institutions so that they curb a might of right approach, a Machiavellian approach to international relations within the region. So in terms of how India can, again, contribute to this changing world order and work with countries like Japan to build stability into the Indo-Pacific, I think there's several pre-existing institutions or mini-lateral relationships that I think India can provide a tremendous amount of leadership. First is the quadrilateral security dialogue. And we've seen the quadrilateral security dialogue emerge and evolve away from a primary security platform to one that is focusing on public goods provisions, whether it's focusing on infrastructure and connectivity, the manufacturing and distribution of vaccines, or technology. India will be a critical and key partner in all of these pillars to try and shape the Indo-Pacific's political economy so that it continues to evolve based on rules, based on transparency, and based on this idea of stability and cooperation amongst like-minded countries. There are other important pillars that India is cooperating in. One is the Regional Supply Chain Initiative, that is a cooperative mechanism between Australia, Japan, and India to fortify and strengthen supply chains to the region. This does not mean decoupling from China, but rather selectively diversifying and building resilience into the region's economy to prevent another transnational disease or a non-traditional security disaster such as an earthquake or a typhoon from disrupting supply chains. Here, Japan, Australia, and India are working together to try and build stability into the system. We also see Japan and India working together in terms of infrastructure, but also in terms of building more synergy between their economies. This will be important as Japan continues to try and selectively diversify away from the Chinese market by building closer to consumer markets. One of those consumer markets is Southeast Asia, but South Asia, in particular India, represents a critical part of Japan's strategy to build more stability into the Indo-Pacific regional economy. And of course, India will continue to be a critical partner. Interestingly, I think that India also is working in other mini-lateral relationships, such as the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, to shape that organization from within. And I think this is a very smart way of playing both the Chinese side of the geopolitical competition within the region, but also being part of US-led or Japan-led or cooperative mechanisms like the Japan-Australia-India partnership. So these mechanisms, whether it's the Quad or infrastructure cooperation or economic cooperation or organizations such as the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, are important ways for India to seek its interests within the Indo-Pacific region, to check potential adversaries and ensure that how they are building organizations are not going to be built in a way that prejudices India's interests. And India understands that it has strong partners like Japan that have the economic interests and the capital to help India achieve some of its goals of development, broad-based social economic prosperity, and achieving a more stable and forthright position within the region. These vehicles will continue to be important, but I don't think we should continue to see these vehicles only through India's role in the Indo-Pacific and broadly through these institutions. We should understand that India is going to be and continues to be an important economic contributor to the region's economic development. It is one of the fastest growing economies in 2022, and that will continue to be the case. Its role as a security provider in the Indian Ocean will only deepen as strategic competition continues to enhance. And importantly, and I think most significantly, India's cooperation and participation, whether it's in the Quad or its deepening partnership with the United States, is critically important to demonstrate that India, as a developing country, is standing side by side as equal partners with developed countries in shaping the norms of the Indo-Pacific region. And I think this is tremendously important in terms of India's pressing its interests and its development perspectives in the Indo-Pacific and broadly, but also to counter the narrative that the current rules-based order is one that has been primarily built by Western societies. I think that India, working again with the United States, Japan, and other developing countries to continue to shape, protect, and invest in the rules-based order demonstrates that the current rules-based order is one that has been built and is being protected, and it's being invested in by not only Western countries and developed countries, but importantly by significant developing countries like India. This normative role is going to continue to be important. I continue to see India to have an incredibly influential position in shaping the rules of the region. And that means working with like-minded countries like Japan, like the United States, but also not excluding other countries like China on issues that are of common cause like the environment. I'll stop there and again say thank you very much to the organizers, and I look forward to a very interesting exchange. Thank you.